Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
My name is Matt.
Hello there. How's everybody doing tonight?
And I'm Daniel. I'm from the Legacy of Nerd YouTube channel.
And this is where we talk all things Star Wars. And for this special occasion, we have Josh tonight joining us to talk about all things Studio Ghibli. So, Josh, before we get to you, I definitely want to thank all of our Patreon support, all the patrons that have donated their hard-earned money, contributed to the podcast with their comments, notes, messages, emails. So on the red tier, actually on the purple tier, we have Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526, Maya Morris. On the black tier, we have Maka, Tawatala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, Liam McCallion. Thank you so much, guys, for everything. And like I said, Studio Ghibli. So there's a rumor that came out that there was going to be a Grogu and Dust Bunnies animated type thing that dropped yesterday, and it was created by the world-renowned Studio Ghibli. I'm not a big fan of it. I never got into it, and I don't think anyone else on the panel here knows a whole lot as much as you, Josh. So if you could explain to the listeners what Studio Ghibli is, what it means, who they are, what it means to you, that'd be great. So
I would say that they're the most, like, the world-renowned, like, the peak of Japanese animation. And that's not just for on the side of Japan, but that's also for the world. I think it was the first one that actually took off in the West as a animation studio. They've won countless awards for their animation, so it was really interesting seeing them do a little cute short. Almost everything they've done up until 2020, I believe, has been just hand-drawn animation, which was really cool to see. This being the short being also hand-drawn animation. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a one of my favorites for sure of animation just in general. But yeah, they go crazy for their animation wise of actually hand drawing everything that they do. I mean, what did you guys have? You guys seen the short? Have you?
yeah, I saw the short, and it was very, very short.
It was extremely short. I laughed at that. I was like, "Wow, 3 minutes? What do you know?"
Yeah, it's a 3-minute runtime, and I think the actual short itself was less than 3 minutes after you take out the Lucasfilm fanfare and then the credits. So it's a hand-drawn short. It's not by Miyazaki. It's by someone else. There's no dialogue, and it's scored by Ludwig Göransson, who we all know is the Mandalorian composer. But it's it's the same as what the title states it is. It's very zen. It's something that you can maybe listen to in the background, I guess. But yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's Grogu hand drawn with these dust bunnies that it interacts with for under 2 minutes. So
it's definitely a fun little short that I actually get really excited to see this because it opens more of a possibility. Because I feel like Grogu is not only the key to being able to stretch all three generations from prequels to sequels. It is just normal public, and I feel like if you can outstretch Grogu all the way to Japan and Japanese animation, I think we can stretch it all over the world. Because you'll have people who have no idea about anything Star Wars, but they'll still love Grogu in general. So I think this is definitely a key player in that. I mean, we have like this reminding me of like a Star Wars Visions kind of short, but it was amazing to see that this is like getting attention from a top animation studio.
Would this be able to be nominated for shorts or for short form?
I don't know if it would be, because I think it's like 15 minutes to 13 minutes is like their actual nominated. Yeah, I think it's just I mean, it is definitely a very, very short one. So I don't think they were trying to do anything gigantic for it, but I think it was just the love of Star Wars being able to do something and add to it.
But now there's that relationship with Disney to add to it.
Oh yeah, they I believe Disney was their actual distribution company for making stuff in the West, actually. So
okay.
when they brought over everything from Japan and they wanted to do the voice acting and translations, I believe it was Disney that helped them out. I mean, like you have Liam Neeson voice some of the, like one of the characters in Ponyo, which is one of their animation movies.
Oh wow,
which is pretty fun. I mean, yeah, this animation is so short that I'm like, hey man, I would love to see more. If you guys want to go like full ham and completely go in on it, I would love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of expecting when I heard that rumor several days ago. But exactly what you said, Josh, with Lucasfilm teaming up with Studio Ghibli, it screams like there's another Visions possibility. And I think there was another rumor out there that Studio Ghibli was going to make maybe an episode or two for a season of Visions. I know we're going to get Vision season 2 coming up here next year, and I'm excited for. I love the first season of Visions. It was fantastic. Different shorts from different studios, not so much canon, but very kind of an interesting kind of dissection and exploration of what Star Wars really offers. And I think a lot of people were expecting this huge expansion away from the typical thing that people say, we want to get away from the Skywalker stuff. And I think that's exactly what it did. And I think it's very underrated too. I think a lot of people haven't seen it, and I don't think it's getting enough credit, but
I think it's a very breath of fresh air for the series of just in general of Star Wars, where even we all know that like a big factor of why people drop projects is just creative differences, because it is very taxing and a giant anchor to stay to the canon, where some people can do it like Dave Filoni, other people can. It's a giant struggle, and having Visions be a key player in being able to be like, hey, you can do whatever you want and make your own canon and have fun with it is like a godsend for the series. I think that I'm extremely excited for Visions 2, season 2, just because like, hey, do what you want is a very important factor for Star Wars. If you have a love for Star Wars, I think that we should be able to do what we want and be able to accept that as fans.
So for Studio Ghibli, what is your favorite film from them?
Ooh, that's a hard. I think Princess Mononoke was my favorite. It's another hand-drawn animation. I believe the last one that they did just recently was 3D animation, which freaked out a lot of people because it's been like, I think since 1993 or 94 was one of their like first films, and it's gone hand-drawn animation all the way up until now. And they don't do like it's an animation term like sequencing, where it's kind of like the computer can fill in the gap or anything. They draw every single little piece of detail, which is pretty insane when you see some of the stills from the things that they've done. It's like you drew every single second to every single millisecond of what's on screen. Which, I mean, this little short, you're like, hey, I mean, the effort that was put into it, it wasn't as much as I would like to see from Studio Ghibli, because I know how much they're able to do. And I mean, especially with me loving like Princess Mononoke, which there's so much going on screen. It's super fluid. I would love to see what they could do with lightsabers flicking around and having fun with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think right now, if you want to see everything that Studio Ghibli has to offer, you can actually go to HBO Max and watch their entire catalog. So that's where to find it. It's not on Disney Plus, but HBO Max has it. So
it's funny how everyone's been like split up through the whole. I swear, Studio Ghibli's on like literally every Disney service. I mean, any kind of streaming service right now.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about here was about this guy. So this last episode of Andor, we broke it down a couple times now through 2 podcasts, and he had a very interesting interview that he gave to the Hollywood Reporter. And I want to read. It's quite a long read here, so I want everyone to like try and hang in there. But there's a lot of good stuff that he talks about here. So And a lot of stuff that we kind of assumed, and I think we had the proper assumptions with Andor and its release schedule. So this article is on Star Wars Newsnet, and it says Gilroy first confirmed that Lucasfilm is so far thrilled with how the show has performed, particularly when it comes to the critical reception, and added that they are now relieved both House of the Dragon and Rings of Power have wrapped their season, so they can be the only fantasy show in town. He also explained that it was the competition that swayed Lucasfilm to move Andor's original release date. So this is a quote from Tony Gilroy. He says, "Everybody's really happy. I've never had reviews or affirmation like this in my life for anything. And the passion of the people who've been following along is just overwhelming, man. I don't know what else to say. It's humbling. So yeah, I think everybody's happy with that. Everybody's pleased that House of the Dragon and Rings of Power are now out of the way. And I think a lot of people that have been waiting for someone to tell them that it's okay to watch Andor now or whatever. It's interesting because we changed our original date from August 31st to September 21st. We were going to come out right with them, but it really wasn't on our radar. I'm not sure that streaming dating has reached the level of military articulation that movie releasing has. It's weird. I know that massive chess pieces of money are moving around the table on those shows, but a lot of the people are doing things for the first time." So, guys, what do you think about what Tony Gilroy had to say there?
Oh, I mean, he's 100% right with like even I was worried that we were just going to get into this TV format where it's just everything is releasing at once, and I feel like a lot of people were only getting invested in one series, especially with House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, because fantasy shows. But I feel like where Andor is right now, it's in its own thing. I believe, like, hey, we still got episodes left, and I'm extremely excited to be able to go and watch those episodes and still have something to look forward to. I mean, I think all of us love Andor right now, and I mean, I think every episode we've been thinking of what's going to happen next, and it's always kept me on a kind of like, I wonder really what is going to happen next. Like, it's like, I feel like Kenobi never got me that way. I don't feel like any other series besides maybe The Mandalorian has gotten me that way of where I really wanted to know what happened next, except for this series. So I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it was an absolute, correct move to move that, release date, right? I mean, we've talked about it before, but it just made sense, right? If you had a good product on your hands, and you're going up against two, giant franchises as well in their own right, why not play the odds, right? Why not shift it? I mean, you're not, like he mentioned, you're not under very strict, schedule like you are with movie releases, where everybody's gotta, put in their schedules. I don't know, probably years beforehand. This is, still a fluid situation. They can rearrange stuff. They control their own network, kind of thing. And I think the show benefited from it. Same thing with the, and we've mentioned before, with releasing 3 episodes at once, right? I think that was also absolutely the correct move for Andor. So that's good. I mean, it's good that he is getting validated on his vision, which I'm assuming he's carrying over to season 2. And I think, this gives him that nice little push to kick that off. They're supposed to be filming pretty soon, no? Start this month, I believe.
Yeah, Daniel.
I was gonna say, like, I think, and I don't want to say like I don't think Andor is a bad show. I think I enjoy Andor, and I have liked it. My only issue with Andor has been some of the pacing that has happened with the show. But I don't know how I feel with, like, we haven't even gotten to see the last 2 episodes, and we're hearing like everybody's like really patting each other on the back. Maybe they're really, really good. I don't know. For me, Andor is a show. It's something for Star Wars to be relevant, so there's not any big padded breaks anywhere. You know what I mean? So, like, obviously Mandalorian is your staple show. That is the show that they are very focused on. We have no immediate plans for any features coming up. And so, because your features are what your big deal is. So for me, Andor is kind of more like, we need to have something out there. We need to make sure there's content out there. There's Star Wars content out there, that it's canon. What we've been lucky so far with Andor is that it hasn't been bad. It hasn't been, I know a lot of people are. I've seen a lot of people complain like, well, it would be just like a good regular show. You could take the Star Wars out of it and it would still be a good show. I think the last couple of episodes we've really seen like this is a Star Wars show. Even with just the settings and all that, because that actually is part of what is going on in the show. But I don't know how I feel if with themselves like patting each other on the back after we had Boba Fett, which was really weird, and I mean I enjoyed Boba Fett like the first 2 episodes, and then I enjoyed the last 2 episodes. So like I guess I'm a little bit more in the middle. As far as where they are placed in relation to House of Dragon and Rings and Power, I guess they're competing with themselves with She-Hulk and stuff like that. Those genres, I know they're fantasy, but it still feels like much different genres to me. I don't know if that's just me. Rings of Power, hobbits going to and then being in space or space adventures. It's just they seem like different genres. So I can understand where they see that they're happy that they're going to be the last show at the end of the year because there's more of a focus on Andor. And I have to give them props for that because they're going to be relevant right now when nobody is. So I do have to say that's probably a good call. But to say that they wasn't on their radar before until they decided, hey, oh yeah, these shows are coming out, we're going to move it up so that we, are doing better at the end. I don't think you want to judge your success on that other shows ended before you.
I think some of the things that are really bumping them up and their feelings towards it is that it's getting so much critical acclaim comparatively to what Kenobi had. And I mean, Kenobi only had like 6 episodes comparatively to what we have here. I completely understand that they must have thought like, hey, we got to tide it over up until like, the end of the year. We're just going to finish off the end of the year on Andor. And, like, hey, you can have a little bit more creative control on this one. And it was like a little bit of experimental thing. And I feel like they didn't think it was going to live to the soaring heights as what most people thought for Kenobi. But personally, I feel like this is much more enjoyable for me, at least. Just based on the acting, the sets, the costume design, all this lore building, and it's showing in their critical acclaim right now. So I feel like that's the kind of like it was the underdog series, and I mean I didn't even care for it when I heard saw the itty bitty bits of it, and I was like, why are we even getting this show? And then now I'm like, hey man, this is like one of my favorite shows that they've ever done. And that's like it's an underdog story for them, and I feel like that's why everyone's like, "Wow, it's amazing that we're getting this far with this show that we put on the back burner."
Yeah, and I can see that. Kenobi. I mean, the difference between Kenobi is that you were going to have the big players. We knew the big players were coming in, at least as far as the universe being in that show. And Andor, like you kind of said, like you don't know what's going to happen next because we only know what's going to happen 5 years into the future on Andor, and really only a couple of days, 5 years into the future, we know what's going to happen. So they can do anything going forward with Andor. And I can see what you're saying, like as far as the underdog and stuff like that. And I guess Kenobi, the difference between Kenobi and Andor, I think is expectations because Kenobi, we knew essentially what was going to happen in Kenobi. We just wanted to see it done a certain way. As for Andor, and don't get me wrong, I think some of the stuff that speech that Luthen had at the end of the last episode about what he's have to sacrifice for rebellion and what the rebellion means to him, like that is probably one of the best speeches ever written in Star Wars or any monologue ever written in Star Wars. In my opinion, it is fluid. It was to the point. It was passionate. It was really well done. And I can see your point. Andor was not the show that was supposed to do great things. So it wasn't Kenobi. It wasn't Mandalorian season 2. It wasn't even Boba Fett. It wasn't supposed to be Boba Fett, but it's kind of better than Boba Fett, to be honest. But my only issue with Andor right now, like I said, was the pacing. Storyline wise, is just like, and I think General Kenobi has brought this up before. Like, are we still looking for the sister? Like, what's going on there? He made a really good point about that. Like, it feels like very much like a pod season. Like, these 3.
Well, I mean, if you're stuck in jail, I mean, how are you going to look for the sister? Your goal is to get out of jail first. So
yeah, and we still have those 2 episodes left, right? Which are supposed to be, I'm sure they're gonna start wrapping up some stuff, and of course, raise some new questions, definitely. to carry us over into season 2. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the critically acclaimed, makes sense. I can see why it is. And I know we talked about it before, but I can also see why it's not, or it's actually the least viewed one, right? In terms of numbers, right? In terms of actual views, it's pretty low, right? Because it is very much, I think, sort of a niche, right now in Star Wars. And my theory is also that a lot of people are actually waiting for it to end before they actually watch it. Because again, I'm sure everybody's heard by now the thing about the pacing of the series. So they're like, you know what? I'm okay, if I watch it, if I binge watch it, on a weekend, right? And that might actually be, better for a lot of people. That might actually be more palatable than like us, right? Waiting, week to week to see what happens next. And then sometimes we get episodes when the overall story doesn't really move forward too much, right? So like I said, I can definitely see that, and then maybe then they'll get the numbers that we're maybe expecting. But in terms of the acclaim, yeah, I see definitely. Like you mentioned, that speech with Luthen, man, that was poetry, man. That was gorgeous. I mean, that's just some of the best written stuff out there that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you guys are saying. The one thing that I'm kind of wondering about is when you take Tony Gilroy's reasoning of we wanted to kind of stay away from Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, why didn't they just release it later on so they could own the month of December too? What's the reasoning behind
Yeah,
that? You know,
yeah,
why
because
did
I mean,
It's going to end in 2 weeks.
exactly.
I wonder if they didn't believe in the project. Another like underdog thing. It's kind of like I feel like it was a board meeting where like they're really passionate. They're like, hey, we can throw another Star Wars, and then they saw how Boba Fett did, and they were like, I don't want to throw it in there and just have another low ball season in comparison.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think Lucasfilm believed in it from the start. You look at the budget, and you can see all the money on the screen there, and they give them 12
That's fair.
episodes. And Tony Gilroy is a known commodity to Lucasfilm. He kind of swooped in and kind of saved Rogue One, according to them. I would love to see a Gareth Edwards cut. That would be
Agreed.
interesting to see what he actually tried to do.
Yeah,
But
man, release the Edwards cut.
yeah, it's like why didn't they just have it go all the way to up until Bad Batch season 2 when they released it January 3rd or 4th whenever they release it? I mean that would have been, I think, the best play, because holiday season, people want Star Wars. I think a lot of younger people associate Christmas time with Star Wars. You could have that, fill that void of no film or new
Hell,
episodes.
it might even be like a kind of, because it's all Disney properties, so it might even be like, hey, we got some Marvel projects at this time, and they're
that's what
ending
I'm
here,
thinking.
and then boom, there's like, here we have Star Wars stuff. Because I mean, She-Hulk was end of that,
Right.
and then leading into it, you have
Yeah,
more things to
it was
keep you
running
on Disney
concurrently.
Plus.
Because I think
So,
Secret
yeah.
War, or not Secret, oh my god, I can't even think of it. Secret Invasion is coming out early next year, and I think that's a show that they put a lot of money into it, and they want that's the focus that they want, and especially I don't know, like I just saw Wakanda Forever, and Riri with Ironheart, so I know they're gonna go all in on the Ironheart series because they really puffed up that character in Wakanda Forever for sure.
See, I thought the Interference was going to be Wakanda Forever because that was supposed to drop the same week that Andor ended, but they moved that up. That just came out. So what's the explanation there? Did they just kind of like drop the ball, or I don't know. I don't see
Because
anything else.
I believe
out
we're
there.
getting the special for Guardians of the Galaxy in December. So
Oh yeah, that's
It's
right.
just one
I
episode,
would-
though, right?
I know, but I'm genuinely thinking that it's like, hey, we got to keep people in Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So let's have it tied over and overlap into next month, which is November. And I don't think we have anything else except for Andor. And then boom, we have something for December. And then early, as you were saying, for Secret Invasion. So, I mean, keep people on Disney Plus kind of thing.
Mandalorian season 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I genuinely think it's to, keep people on Disney Plus.
And I mean,
So-
also like Andor is your first real week to week, more than 6 episodes. It's a 12 episode. It's a full streaming season. So I mean, if you're going to put that up against something, you're going to put that in your fall schedule and see how that does against other network shows as well. So I can see why they do that. And it was definitely like Andor being their first, they're going to use that as a measurement going forward, because I know Daredevil's supposed to have like 18 episodes, if I'm correct. So that's going to be their next big, huge episodic season coming up for Disney Plus. So I think it's definitely a measuring stick that they're trying to use. My only thing is like you can't measure it against shows like Game of Thrones that spend $200 million on a season, you know, and Rings of Power that they spent $2 billion just to, you know, buy this series essentially. So I think you can't measure it against those shows, especially when you're not in the same genre. You know, if it was a DC show that they were airing, you know, and they were fighting against a Marvel show or whatever, Marvel versus DC, that's something that you can measure against, like who's watching this right now. But Star Wars, I think Star Wars, it's its own thing. I don't know if anyone agrees with me on that, but it's kind of how
Well, the thing is, I was trying to remember that, but we've seen Star Wars go up against Lord of the Rings before, right? 20 years ago, mind you. And
I worked at the theaters when it happened. It was fun.
Exactly. So, and you know, at least critically acclaimed, Star Wars didn't come out, you know, as the clear victor back then. So I don't know if it's giving them memories like that, and they're trying to again distance themselves. But to David's point, why not do it all the way, right? Why not just push it out one more month, right? And you would have cleared like half of the season for all those shows, probably more. And then you would be sitting pretty for the rest of the year, right? Just as the only thing out there, basically, with any big fandom, right? Whether it be fantasy, space, or otherwise. So it is interesting. And I agree what you mentioned also, that the stuff about like, oh yeah, it wasn't on our radar. I mean, come on, like, you know, that doesn't really make sense to me at all. That they wouldn't know when the rest of the shows were gonna drop, right? That I don't know, that part I find hard to believe, with all the research and amount of money these guys spend on everything, right? On ratings, on platform performance, all of that stuff. How couldn't you know that the two biggest shows of the year were gonna drop at the same time? But maybe everybody's really, really good at keeping secrets nowadays.
Yeah, I talked about on the last podcast that it was great for me because I had House of the Dragon Sunday night. Then I think it was Andor Tuesday leading into Wednesday. Then I had She-Hulk, and then Rings of Power. I mean, it was fantastic. I loved it. It might be a time of my life that I think back and look on fondly, because it was awesome, man. Because I had stuff just about every night to look forward to.
It was a lot to keep up with, though. Like, Rings of Power. It was me. I was skipping a lot of Rings of Power for me. I think the House of the Dragon was the only one that I was like watching it on Sunday night.
Yeah, I actually came in pretty late. House of Dragons was the last one that I picked up, and they were already like 5 episodes in. Like, I came in pretty late to it. I was all in on Rings of Power, dude. I was like, I'm not missing this. I was watching it, before work and stuff. I was like, I have to see this.
Yeah, the curiosity factor with that show was huge.
Yeah.
But more on this Tony Gilroy article here. I'm going to read some more of it. So the article states he was also asked about what the prisoners are building in their shifts. And though he didn't give a straight answer, he hinted at some potential season 2 ties. Tony Gilroy said they're building season 2, and he laughs. It's the spine of season 2. I've heard all kinds of things. It's great. All of the material that the Empire has, I look at everything like, economically, how does this work? Who built Scarif? How do you build that? How do you build Edu? How do you build the Death Star and this armada of ships? There's a lot of things that need to be built, and there's an incredible amount of material. So to me, what they're building is not as important as the scale of it. When you go to the Imperial Bureau of Standards, where Cyril works, you go, oh my God. And he's just working at the fuel purity desk. But that's what it takes to run the Empire. So the scale of it is really what we're trying to suggest here. So, guys, what do you think they're actually building there? I think that was one of the more kind of like under the radar type questions. Are they building something for it looks like for something like super unique because every level seemed like they're building the same exact thing. Anyone got any clue?
I always just assumed that it was going to be parts of the Death Star. Yeah, it was like small, very small parts, but they need literally everything they can get to try and get this done as fast as possible because we know that from Rogue One it's delayed on and they're behind schedule. And I feel like this was a little hint in them saying like, hey, look, like we can't even let these prisoners go. We got to get everything done.
It's a bird catcher. They're building bird catchers. Yeah. Really big, like the dream catchers you hang in your room.
There you
like
go.
That, but like Death Star scale. So that's my theory.
Somebody was saying that they were actually level whatever 7 builds the whole thing, and then they transfer it over to building like to level 1 to disassemble it and then like get it reassembled like back again and then disassemble and like just to keep them busy, like they're not actually building anything, which I was like, dude, if that's what they're doing, that's just mean. Okay, that's just evil.
They're making pinecone art. That's what they're
Yeah,
making.
there you go.
I mean, they're making whatever they're making. They're making 100 of something every day, and teams of them are making it. And they've been doing that for at least the entire time Andor's been there and before because they were trained to do that. So, I mean, whatever it's repetitious. So it's whatever it is, they need a lot of. So, like Josh said, it would make more sense. It was for the Death Star if they're making the same part over and over and over and over for months.
Yeah. I had hopes that it was like the parts to like to like the AT-AT, because of the shape that it's got, it looks like
for the feet.
Yeah, exactly, like something like that, right? And you need, I don't know, a dozen of those per each AT-AT, and I'm sure they're building quite a bit. But again, that's just because of the shape of the part or of the assembly, I guess. Somebody I know mentioned something about the a connection to that power grid that they've been talking about. About hitting, that the rebels are trying to decide if they want to actually hit it or not. The one that Luthen was trying to convince Saw Gerrera to help out with. And so they were saying, oh yeah, this is a part of that whatever power station, and so it's gonna come in handy that they know how the part is actually built. But I mean, if it is, I don't particularly see how that would connect into a like a power station, but could be.
Yeah, I actually have no clue what they're trying to build. It looks almost like a Star Wars type of like cog in the wheel. It's interesting what Gilroy says, and that he's really interested to see how things work in the Star Wars universe, and I absolutely love that. I love that he's going down to the nuts and bolts and trying to make sense and logic of how it all kind of works underneath the covers. And hopefully we get to see that part in action. I would really love to actually find out and know that they went that extra mile to show us exactly what that part's used for. Hopefully.
Hey man, we might just get it next episode where someone's like, do you know that the projects are going to be like delayed because of this? Like because of them all escaping the prison. So they're going to be like, this project is delayed because of the prison escape.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about on a previous episode or previous several episodes that Tony Gilroy and crew probably got inspiration from George Lucas's first film, which is THX 1138. Absolutely. So he does talk about that, and I'm about to read it here. So Gilroy also explained how they came up with the entire concept of the prison when trying to make something different from everybody else, and how THX 1138 inspired production designer Luke Hull. Gilroy says that's fascinating because when we get into the room, I knew that Cassian goes to prison, but everyone was like, oh my God, an effing prison. How do you do anything new? Because we were not going to do what anybody had done before. We were just absolutely adamant about that, which is something I love. That's the rule. So I honestly don't know who said electric floors first in the flurry of all the stuff happening, but someone had electric floors. And all of a sudden we were like, oh my God, what does that mean? And so we spent the whole day building the prison. And Luke Hull was there with us building the prison. We got so crazy about this stuff. A lot of people think the prison is just white, but there's a billion kinds of white. When we were doing the ISB conference room, we also had to figure out our whites and how much gray was in it. but I think there were pictures up from THX 1138. I know we had pictures up from the Conformists, so I'm sure there were pictures up from THX of those whites. So it's a happy convergence, and it's really pleasing and cool that it's George Lucas's first movie. But we definitely went back and looked at it afterwards, and we're like, oh my God, look at those whites. So Matt, what do you think about that piece of the interview there? I mean,
I
THX
think
1138.
he's 100% right about the whites thing. Like, you guys know how many whites there are out there? It's pretty intense. So I like that. I like that he is so like detailed and informative when it comes to these interviews, because for someone who like loves like the background stuff, the behind the scenes stuff, he's a great person to interview. So at the beginning of that sentence, the first thing you said, can you read it again? Like the very first beginning, what you just said.
He said that's fascinating because when we got into the room, I knew that Cassian goes to prison, but everyone was like, "Oh my God, and in prison, how do you do anything new?"
So like he was talking about like that he knows the story, he knows the plot, he knows what's going on, but then when he adds all of the elements of like the story and puts them together, even he fools himself into believing this. And like all of us we were all collectively as an audience dumbfounded by the idea that after Cassian had gone through all these things, that he was going to end up going to prison, and this particular prison for such a dumbfounded reason that is like unjustifiable. Like Cassian may need to go to jail based off of what he's done, but not for the reason that he actually got put in jail. So that made us frustrated as an audience. And then you got to worry about the inner political aspects of every prison, because everyone has one. And now Cassian has to navigate this whole system. And then he also has to kind of low-key fix the system while he's in it, because he's the only one that has his eyes open, and he's realizing that no one's getting out. He's like, we have to do something. Because I was like, before this, what were these guys were just living day to day. They were just counting their numbers. And then Cassian shows up and gives them this alternative perspective. So the idea that Gilroy talks about, the fact that he can get lost, and the idea of Cassian just being put away in this prison as an audience and as, you know, being like the one who created this show, I think it's fun. I love that. So yeah.
General Kenobi, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it like it says, right? I can only imagine what those rooms, you know, would sound like or look like. You know, everybody just throwing out ideas left and right. So I think it's a little bit funny that he's like, yeah, I don't even know who said it first, but yeah, electric floors, right? You know, somebody just heard it, and you know, we started talking more about it, and that's what we went with. I I had as you were reading it, I had a like a visual of, you know, Tony just in front of a board with literally like 48 different shades of white, and they're like, yeah, you got to choose one.
Like at Home Depot.
You know? Yeah, exactly. He's like, you know, and he spent like 7 days in that, looking at that board, and then they bring the next 48, and you know, so on and so forth. But he's right.
What's the color of that white?
Exactly.
Eggshell. What's the color of that white? Mother of pearl.
Exactly. You know,
and it all looks white.
And yeah, and everybody around him is like, I don't know what he's talking about. They're all the same. They're the exact same picture. So you know, I know that somebody actually had to go through that, you know, a similar process. You know, I'm sure it wasn't him, but some poor guy or poor intern had like, all right, you got to choose the white, you know, for the uniforms, and the white for the floors, and the white for the, you know, the shirts, and the white for that one stripe on the guards, you know, and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense that they would look at, you know, George Lucas's past work, because I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Both as an homage and just as something that works. You know, we know that visually it works. We know that people responded to it, right? We've had for the past, I don't know, what is it, 40 years, go 50 by now, of THX. And so why wouldn't you look at, you know, the path threaded already? But yeah, so I kind of do like that he, you know, he doesn't shy away from it. He's like, yeah, you know, we looked at it. We know what sort of what we needed to do. We wanted to be different, which is very, very hard. Absolutely. and like Matt mentioned, it's not just the visuals of it, it's the setting, right? It's why Andor got in, right? That's also different, right? Because we were all expecting him to end up in some sort of imperial entanglement, but not for, walking down to 7-Eleven to pick up, whatever blue milk the chick wanted and just being on the wrong spot, at the wrong time. And so after all he's done, this is why he gets busted, right? Like this one, like dumb thing is why he gets busted. And so again, that plays into the difference of it, right? And I'm sure, it was all premeditated and sort of part of the plan, right? To sort of deviate to what maybe we were all expecting.
Yeah. Daniel?
I guess, I don't know. Like, actually, I was thinking about this the other day. When I go into training, sometimes I have to go to conferences, and they put me in these rooms with like bright white walls. It's like the worst thing for me because I get headaches right away. And for me, like, it's like he knew like a lot of people are like that, and to be in an environment like that would be like torture, like all the time. Just my eyes just would super focusing on that white. But kind of going back also on Andor being in prison and the reason he's been in prison, but from a story standpoint, we've seen him done so many questionable things that teeter on that line of morality, and this is sort of like his penance for doing that. You did things. You're in jail. You may not be in jail for the reasons that you're supposed, or prison. You may not be in prison for the reasons that you're supposed to be, but you do belong here in some aspect of it. So it's showing the audience, like, we did get to watch him suffer. He did get his, due justice as far as that goes. But, planning those prisons out. And then also, like, you're telling the story. We're making parts, and I don't know, like, obviously, like, I don't know how it is in tech world, but, you see, like, in movies or TV shows, they go into high sterilized places. Everything's white, so you can see if something's dirty or something like that. So it makes sense why they would do that from a prison aspect, as well. But I think the electric floor is also just cruel. I mean, I don't even know if it's like necessarily electric, because it almost seemed like much more painful than being shocked. So I don't know if that's completely part of it as well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because when they were first arriving at the prison, and they give him the, the little speech, it's like, oh, I'm sure you're wondering why we don't even have weapons, right? Like, on us. Let me show you. And they all kind of, they flip the switch, and they all kind of like contort in a way, but they all fall down like a little bit faster than I would think. So I actually thought it was like a gravity pull, like
I thought it was a frequency,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, what I'm trying to say is my mind didn't go to electricity like right away, right? I thought it was something else, or a combination of things. Maybe just because of some of the movements that they had. And then, of course, you see the big old, orange boots, and you're like, okay, the ski boots. And you're like, all right, well, those look pretty insulated, so I guess it's got to be, electricity.
I don't know about you guys. Have you guys ever been electrocuted? Is that an experience you've had before?
I've had a very small, but like water and electric outlet experience, but that sucked.
We gotta talk off camera about that. But no, I don't know. Like, the worst I've ever had is probably like a livestock, like live wire.
I've been stuck by that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks too.
I've had something like that. That sucks.
Yeah.
And like that made my because I was like trying to like walk under it to get past it, and it shocked me like on my back. And my back did an arch, kind of very dissimilar to that of what we see in Andor. So I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe that's a little. And I get what he's saying, like ultra sound frequencies or something like that. But I don't know. I don't know if maybe they're just not good at acting like they're being electrocuted, or if there's more to it.
Or they weren't specific at the time they were shooting.
But if you've never been like at least like significantly like electrocuted, I'm not talking like putting your tongue on a 9-volt. I'm talking about like actually getting a good jolt. It's really hard for someone to properly emulate what the body may or may not do in that situation. So
I know when I touched the wire, you can't. You want to let go,
but you can't. Your muscles are like, nope, we're gonna contract.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything else.
Locked.
ever peed on an electric fence? Have you? Have you? Have you done that?
Yeah, not
Have you done
that.
that? I
Nope.
don't. Well,
I saw that episode of Mythbusters early on. I was like, nope, not doing that.
I like that this is kind of like an anonymous situation for this Facebook user. They're like, my hands are clean of this.
Exactly.
Wow, I love it. But yeah, I think the electric floor concept was a really cool idea. And I always love the idea of hearing how a writer's room comes up with ideas. And when you're in an open brainstorming setting like that, and someone says, rope that ties itself, electric floor, and then one of them sticks to the wall, and you go from there.
But it's the whole Empire thought of rule by fear. Like, they don't even need to do much. They just need to know you. They needed them to know that it was there and the possibility was always there.
Scriptwriters are crazy people because like they can get into the mindset of pretty much anybody. So I'm like, we have to come up with this like torture scene, and we have to come up with like this new profound way of torture that you've never seen in cinema before. So what do you guys got? And then they just kind of go from there. And then I'm like, those weirdos sit in a room and talk about that for like 8 hours
until somebody says, screaming dying children. They're like, bingo. No, like write that down.
Well, they're like, we already had exploding heads, so we can't do that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we've already had like droids injecting you with unknown drugs, like, so we can't do that anymore. That's
they have already done that in Andor, so
yeah. But dude, one of my favorite memes of the season now is when they put the apparatus, the headphones, let's call them, on Biggs, and Mariah Carey's Christmas song starts playing. Dude, I was like, you win, internet.
Oh yeah, it's like November 1st.
Yeah.
Oh man,
retail workers.
I haven't seen that meme, but it makes total sense.
Oh man, like I was literally laughing out loud when I saw it like come across. I was like, oh man, these guys are geniuses.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for me, seeing the electrical flooring, I was like, genius. That's the perfect solution for not having bars on the prison rooms, not having the like photon beams that would like shock you or whatever, like the stuff from episode 1, not having that stuff.
Right.
And it's a low tech solution because all it requires is acting in red lights. So it was perfect.
Have y'all ever played Batman Arkham City?
I played a little bit of it.
That was the Riddler's last thing for his story, was Batman had to get through this puzzle, this floor, to get to save Catwoman, but the floor was electrified. So they could have just took it from there.
Interesting. Yeah, that's possible. There's a lot of weird tie-ins to Batman and Star Wars. Have you guys noticed that and picked up on that? Like lately?
Give me an example, and I'll.
So Andy Serkis,
dead parents,
is literally Alfred now in the Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
Olaf, the guy who died from the stroke, he's the guy that shot Michael Keaton in 1989 Batman.
No freaking way! I never know that.
Oh, I missed that one. Nice.
Yep. And there's some more out there. I'm missing probably a whole bunch, but there's a lot of like weird ties. And back in The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams put a tumbler on the bottom of the Millennium Falcon and shot with the tumbler stuck to the Millennium Falcon, just with Millennium Falcon colors. So it's kind of camouflaged in there.
Well, I guess Andy Serkis is Alfred now too. So
yeah. So yeah, there's more from this interview I want to read. Some more tasty bites. Let me see. Let me go back to the article here. It says, in terms of teases, Gilroy then gave the big one of them all. After Kino Loy's last moments in episode 10, most viewers assumed the character was dead. But Tony Gilroy, taking a page out of Dave Filoni's playbook, isn't so sure. When asked if he presumes Kino was executed shortly after, Gilroy said, I don't know. He's not dead. Is he dead? I don't see him dying. So I guess that's the official answer. And I think a lot of people are claiming that he didn't die. So Matt, I know you talked about it earlier. Was there like a publication or something, or Tony Gilroy said something after this interview that stated that Kino, Andy Serkis' character, is alive?
There wasn't one on his Instagram, and I feel like I would definitely want to see it there. Or his the official answer that I have right now is no. I have not seen any updates on that.
Yeah, there
look right
was
now
an
real quick.
Instagram post by Galactic Transmissions that stated clearly that Kino Loy lives, and of course it's Andy Serkis. I mean, that's a well-known actor. He's a great actor. We've already killed him once in Star Wars as Snoke, so killing him again, that'd be kind of weird. I know that we had the whole Oscar Isaac thing where he went to JJ and asked him, please don't kill me. I know the script says you're going to kill me, but I've died so many times, which I'm not quite sure is totally true. But
Yeah.
he stayed alive. He stayed part of the big three. So, guys, so what did you guys think when Kino Loy said, I can't swim? Did you think that was it for him? Did you think he was going to get pushed in and survive? Or it felt like to me that he lived, that he stayed on and he just lived.
You got 4,999 dudes out here that apparently all can swim. Like 5 of them can help you out. Like, like,
that's true.
You take
Find
a
flotation
turn,
device. There's got to be something out there. A lifeboat.
I mean, what was that chore with? Was it Bear Grylls? When he takes off his pants, he like inflates them and like ties them up. And like he sort of like grabs them on.
Watch National Geographic.
That's the thing where I was like,
inside the prison.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, you should have gotten, you should have been a more studied man, before you went into the joint. But yeah, I was like, oh, that's perfect. And so I was like, okay, well, Andor's gonna help. Nope, there he goes. And like Andor just gets pushed off, into the water. But my favorite thing that I saw this week, after that was a custom figure, right? Of Kino, right, on a card back with the Kino picture, and his accessories are a rubber ducky and a lifesaver, like right next to him. I was like, dude, I was trying to actually buy it, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, a lifesaver, not a lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly, a life.
Clear,
yeah, a flotation device shaped like a donut with very colorful, imprints, but. Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's just perfect, right? Like the guy that actually sort of got him all riled up, basically had the knowledge, to guide Andor, like, okay, this is more or less where we need to go, stuff like that. He had already obviously scouted out some of the place, being in there so long. And I actually did enjoy that part when Andor is like, hey man, like, it's gotta be you. Like you're the one that people know. You're the one that's been here for years. Like people know you. Like other managers know you too. So like they're gonna know this isn't like a trap, right? Whereas if Andor talks, he's been in there, I don't know, a few months. Nobody really knows him, right? Or he's not established. So I thought that was a good point to make. That it had to be him to make the transmission and get everybody, to act. And then, leave him behind, right? Or as far as we know.
I mean, that's something he keeps on doing, though. Like he, when they were doing the heist, he was saying like, I'm going to fly the ship. You can say it's your idea when it works out, but I'm going to fly the ship. Like he's constantly like, this is
pushing
idea,
off leadership. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to take the credit for this. Like he keeps doing that over and over.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I saw Kino Loy, like when he goes, I can't swim. Like my first thoughts were like, you can't float either. Like that was just like really what I thought.
Yeah.
You come on, man. When you were little, you didn't try to float in the bathtub at all. Like you can do that. Like you're escaping prison, dude. Like figure it out, dude. That's what I was just thinking. But
figure it out. I love it.
Yeah,
I love your method of escaping a prison.
Exactly.
He's at the door. He's ready to go. Like you made it.
Although that was a pretty big drop, though. Like that's the only thing that I was thinking. I was like, well,
yeah.
If he was at sea level, he's like, I'll give it a shot, and then if nothing else, I can crawl back into the prison. But he's, I don't know, at least a few dozen feet up in the air, to jump. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to come out. Like,
there's workaround. You're like, dude, can somebody push me? Somebody push me. I don't
like just like Andor, right? Like just push me without noticing.
I don't know, but I remember when I was a kid and I was scared to jump into the pool, my uncle would come pick me up and throw me in the pool. So like somebody could have done that for him too.
Yeah. It's been funny if somebody shows up behind him, with the little taser rod and like, swim you go. Like, time to learn. Boop.
Yeah. I think all of us here on the panel here know how to swim, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
At least float,
yeah,
right?
So if you can think back to the time before you knew how to swim, I personally, when I was a little boy, I was scared of the water. My parents took me to swimming lessons, and I got over that pretty quickly because I was actually instructed on how to swim. And even as an adult, I learned an even better way how to swim. And floating was like a fun thing because that was like kind of a safety blanket type thing. Because if you were out in the deep, got tired, didn't want to swim, you just simply float on your back and you can breathe. But see,
Right.
in an ocean though, there's waves and stuff, and I mean it's kind of difficult. I know they turned the generators off or the dam closed or whatever, but I think for people that know how to swim, it's kind of like a hard concept to accept. But there's a lot of adults that say they don't know how to swim, and there's a lot of adults that like die from drowning because they didn't know how to swim. So it's just kind of
I
one of
can
those
see that.
things.
My only thing is in this storyline, he had just taken over a prison. Like he was getting shot at. He took down a guard. He climbed out of a hole. He took down 2 more guards. Like he just did all these impossible things. And you are
The last step.
you
Yeah.
basically like you got to the very end. You know, if you stay here, you're
Yeah.
going to die.
Yeah, you knew the worst part is that he knew that this was one of the steps he would have to overcome.
Yeah.
Like you're on a prison that you know is in water. I'm like, what? Like
I mean, they obviously didn't plan for like there was no ship they had planned to be there. They knew how they came in, so he knew he was going to have to do something at the end, probably jump. So my thing is like, you know, as far as the character goes, like, how are you going to do all that stuff and then at the end just not like I can't swim? Like I don't know. I mean, all I think it was is like we're done with Andy Serkis's, you know, Kino Loy's character.
Yeah, it was a good out.
You
Yeah.
know, like we're outing. It's mysterious whether he lived or died. If we want to bring him back in the future, we can. If we don't, there's a reason he drowned. You know, so
Yeah, it's gonna be cool if he's he stayed within the prison. He now controls it all, and he opened up like an Airbnb, on the building since it's empty. And so we come back to it, a few years later, and dude's like uber rich.
He super nicely re-employed all the Imperial.
Exactly, I was gonna say,
and they're all actually cool now.
And they're all
have like a book
and
club
they're all
on
like, man,
Wednesdays.
like I see the error of my ways, like I got way better, benefits now under this guy. And
he's going to come back in season 2. He's going to have a squad of rebels, and he's always going to have a life preserver on. It's just
Exactly.
It's always going to be on all the time. And he's like,
gonna have like the safety, orange like vest
The
like on
orange
him
vest,
all the whole time.
Or
people will confuse him for looking like a pilot.
Or he already came back in episode 7 as Supreme Leader Snoke.
There you go.
Moving on. So the last part of this interview I'm reading here is about one of my most favorite elements, best surprises, I think. So Tony Gilroy states, before that, they in this segment here, the prison break block brought back into the picture Duncan Powell as Melshi from Rogue One, and we then see him again running away with Cassian on the beach after escaping.
Yep.
Gilroy said the following about including the character in the scripts and how it ties Andor even more nicely with the 2016 movie. Gilroy says, I love the character. Duncan Powell, who plays Melshi, was a great hang on Rogue, and I just really liked him. So I was just like, how can we get him back in? There will be some other things along the way that will do, but the prison just seemed like a great place to show where and how they met. So what do you guys think of Melshi showing up kind of unexpectedly there?
I don't remember him in Rogue One, to be honest.
I do.
Remember who he was?
So he's actually the captain, or was it sergeant, of the troopers that went with them on Scarif, on that suicide mission. So when they're all preparing for, to disembark the stolen shuttle, Andor says, Melshi, you have like the lead, right? Like you're going to be leading the troops. And that's when he tells them, scatter, make 10 men feel like 100, all of that stuff.
Oh, okay.
That's him. And he's the one that gets the transmission from Body Rook about the master switch, remember, to be able to connect the antenna so that they could talk to the rebel fleet. Okay. And so he's the one that says, hey, we need to connect, the switch and blah, blah, blah.
So like
But
his
what
face looked familiar to me. I just didn't know if I know.
Yeah,
if show or
I mean
something.
he had lines, like he had like an actual speaking part on the movie. What I didn't realize though, and when I was reading that story for Tony, was that apparently in Rogue One, like it was, I guess, by design that Melshi was not the highest ranking officer, on the ground, but that Andor like specifically gave him command, bypassing whatever actual CO was there, because he knew him, right? Like because they had history, because he trusted him. So again, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I don't know every single rank of all those troopers that were there, but somebody posted that, and I thought that was pretty cool because again, it's a callback now, that we know that they've met quite a bit of years before at the actual mission. So I thought if it is true, I think that's a very cool thing that they actually added.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. Like I've said so many times, I loved Rogue One, and the way that story was put together. It was actually the war in Star Wars. We got to see new planets and labels of planets when we went to said planets, and that whole beach battle on Scarif was terrific.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember Melshi, I remember Pal, I remember what was, and now I'm not remembering the name, the monkey creature, what was his name? Biston, right? Biston. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, going back to our last topic there, in regards to Kino Loy, we have a comment here. I think if Kino dies, it gives more credence to the sacrifice than that for the entire time he helps 5,000 people escape. He knows he's never making it out.
Could be.
So
It
yeah,
could be
that's a good
actually, now that he brings that up, it could be a parallel between Kino and Luthen, right? I mean, Luthen, specifically says, "I know I'm not gonna see like basically the fruits of my labor, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing this for whoever comes next." So could be. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah, for sure. So there is more to this interview here, but it deals with other topics here. So we'll move on to the next thing that we wanted to discuss here on the podcast, and going to the Mandalorian season 4. Has anyone heard any news? I know we haven't got to Mandalorian season 3 yet, but there is an article out in regards to the rumored filming for the Mandalorian season 4, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. So this is from Bespin Bulletin. It says the third season of the Mandalorian has yet to be released, but the latest issue of Production Weekly has provided an update on the Mandalorian season 4. Back in August, the same outlet claimed the production on the series was due to start at the tail end of September, which didn't come to fruition. And in more recent weeks, rumblings have started that the Mandalorian season 4 could start filming this month, as Ahsoka is due to wrap sometime this month, if it hasn't already. And the members of the production crew have teased getting back to work. However, in the latest Production Weekly issue, claims production will start within the first quarter of next year, first 3 months of 2023, meaning the November rumors were likely just in relation and pre-production starting ahead of principal photography early next year if true. Currently, both Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew are both filming at Manhattan Beach Studios in California, with Ahsoka also filming at the Train Yard set location in El Segundo. The former is scheduled to wrap filming sometime this month, with many supporting cast members already wrapped, and Skeleton Crew is supposedly due to wrap filming next month. Both Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew are due to release next year, along with the third season of The Mandalorian, which was reported to premiere on February 22nd. So we're going to get The Mandalorian Season 3 in February. I know Jon Favreau confirmed on a red carpet that we're going to get Mandalorian Season 4. And there's details in there about Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew also shooting at the same area where the Mandalorian shot. And I know Daniel brought up earlier the difference in quality between the Book of Boba Fett and Andor. So the Book of Boba Fett was also shot in the same location that all the Mandalorian seasons are shooting. Ahsoka shooting there, and Skeleton Crew, which is supposed to be the second highest budgeted TV streaming show after Rings of Power. So what do you think about the continuation What do you think about the rumored trailer that we're going to get come Christmas for The Mandalorian season 3? Is it a story that's fully complete, or are they just kind of riding the wave of monetary success with Grogu and The Mandalorian? And the fact that The Mandalorian is the most watched Disney Plus show still, it still outranks Andor, and Andor is a brand new show, critically acclaimed. So what do you guys think, Daniel?
I don't know what more they can do. And I guess I'm curious to see what season 3 is even really going to be about. I felt when I was watching, I don't know if you guys remember, like I'm sure you guys do remember, but so like at the end of season 2, Luke picks up Grogu, and that's the story. And then we got the book of Boba Fett, and we thought, oh, wait, is the Mandalorian going to be about Boba Fett now? It's called the Mandalorian, right? Because I thought that was kind of the idea at the time, or at least we didn't know. Because I felt like the Mandalorian Grogu story was sort of done, and then Boba Fett, they're back together. I don't know. And I want to, I am curious where they're going to go with season 3. I just want it to be conducive to their story, not necessarily just like you said, like, are we just riding the money train? We're doing a season 3, doing a season 4, putting out a show, even though we don't have any more good ideas about it. That being said, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, I mean, they don't go wrong much unless you watch The Lion King. It wasn't very good. So, I kind of just want to see. I kind of want to know, like, if there's. I want to know the question to your answer, or the answer to your question would be, is this going to be quality TV going forward? And we know they're going to put a lot of money towards this. Like, this is their money train. Like, this is what Star Wars is right now, The Mandalorian. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm kind of surprised to hear that. So I guess I'm hearing all my news from you guys. Like, I don't read actively about Star Wars unless it comes up on my feed, like Variety and stuff like that. But I didn't know that they were shooting season 4. I didn't even know it was a rumor that they were already supposed to have shot season 4, and they've already delayed it to like next month. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, which kind of makes sense production wise if you're going to do season back to back. That way you have layovers. You can do stuff like the Acolyte, which we know they're just starting on. They can do what else? I mean, what other show that come on with Star Wars that they didn't cancel? Not the they canceled the Ranger show.
Yeah,
I guess were they doing one with
droids? I don't know.
Well, yeah, they're shooting Acolyte in England.
They just started that.
Yeah, and all the Mando, Book of Boba, Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka's all being done in
They're doing another
Southern
Book of
California.
Boba, or they just
That's the rumor. That's yeah.
I don't.
Surprise.
yeah. Sorry.
I don't.
Sorry,
know.
no. Sorry,
It's not like super official. It might have been something where I think we kind of have the theory that maybe Lucasfilm put out a feeler out there for it. But of course, when we went to Celebration in Anaheim, they had a huge Book of Boba Fett set up, and they were really kind of hyping it up. And
okay, he needs to
fully
meet
behind
Captain
it.
Rex then, and they need to have a buddy cop show. That's what it needs to be. Him and Captain Rex just bitching at. I'm sorry, just going at each other all day through the show. That's the only way. Like, for me, Boba Fett is just like, I remember my dad. I was talking to my dad one time about Boba Fett, and I was like, "Why did y'all like Boba Fett so much?" And he was like, "Because he looked cool." And I was like, "But like, he was in the movie for 5 minutes in Empire, and then he died. He got swallowed up by a monster at the very beginning of Return of the Jedi. So like, why? Like, did y'all just make up stories in your head?" And he was like, "Pretty much, yeah." Yep. So I never really understood like the Boba, like why we love Boba so much. Now I know there's been a lot of stuff like in the books and stuff like that, and they've expanded on the character. But I the only books I ever read were the Young Jedi books, were the expanding. So I didn't read much about Boba Fett, but I don't know. To me, it's not that much of an interesting character. I'm more interested like by the Bad Batch clones and
watch what you say on this podcast. We got some followers who might fight you. I'll tell you that right now. I'm sorry, Tom. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, I understand. Like, if you want to go off of what we saw only in the original trilogy, like he was a very ominous and like cool character that was silent. So, and you knew nothing about him, so you had to be creative and make up this backstory of what happened or who he was.
Yeah,
because there was nothing, but he was just so cool looking. And but then the way he died was kind of really stupid. So I was like, how did you guys pump up a character so much? But then like I don't know, it's kind of like Grogu. Once the ball really got rolling at the beginning of season 1, and like social media and pop culture just took Baby Yoda and made it what it is today. But if that hadn't happened, if Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi, if he hadn't gotten that ball rolling and become such a amazingly cool, ominous character, and then we're like, ooh, he died super weird, but he's still cool. And then they kind of fan service even back then, with the other products and like the books and stories and the video games stuff where he's appeared there. And
my only thing is like going behind the scenes stuff, like the mismanagement of Boba Fett. It's just like obviously I wasn't born back then, and I was I wasn't part of that, but reading about it, like you guys knew Boba Fett was coming from the Christmas special, and there was already interest with the Christmas special, right? And then you see him in Empire, and people were like, "Oh, he's awesome in Empire." So you knew that he was already popular, and then Return of the Jedi, you're like, "Nope," you get sucked up into a hole and kind of get farted out. Like that was like, I don't know, like that just didn't seem like the best marketing idea at the time. Maybe they weren't thinking about that as much.
Yeah, if you watch that Behind the Helmet, I believe it's called, on Disney Plus, George Lucas talked about how Boba Fett wasn't supposed to be this character that people were supposed to fall in love with, but it happened, and I mean, it just kind of grew from there. And I think even into Return of the Jedi, he said he would have never killed Boba Fett if he knew that character was going to be as huge as he was. But yeah, he totally got eaten by a giant monster. And years later, I mean, the debate and everything was, did he make it out? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're making a series about him, and it's like that's one of the first things they showed, him getting out of the Sarlacc. And I don't think fan reception was great for that show. I haven't really met. Most people say that, yeah, they should have had a different tone with the character and just overall story, and then people complain about having
on his
Mando.
But like how they treated Boba Fett in season 2 and Mando, like that's kind of like what we've all wanted to. See, just like he comes out, they do suddenly Boba Fett's a ninja too. Like that was kind of cool to see, and just take out these guys and even need his armor. It just that was kind of like, if they continued that would have been a much better show.
I just really want Star Wars to sell the Book of Boba Fett bathrobe that we see him wear inside it. That'd be pretty cool. I'd buy that. Yeah.
Go along with your back to tank.
I can't fit that in my room.
Yeah,
but maybe in the garage. Maybe in the garage.
Your flashback inducing back to tank.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Until this big hairy beast rips me out of it.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, but hey, you got the Vesper Rangers to come save you, so there's that. Yeah, I don't know how many like seasons we got left on the Mandalorian, honestly. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't know how many good quality seasons we got left in the Mandalorian. Okay, we know where season 3 is going. Okay, they're gonna deal with Mandalore, right? Both the planet and the succession of the throne, right? And more than likely trying to put back together Mandalore as a society, right? As reuniting the clans, whatever's left of them anyway. So it's gonna be it's gonna be a homecoming type of thing, for Mandalore. Definitely, I think Bo-Katan is gonna play obviously a huge part of all of this. I still think the armor is gonna play a bigger part than we've been led to believe, but we'll see. but like you said, then what? All right. I've always sort of said it that we have. I've always believed that we were gonna get a season 4. All right, even before they announced season 3, I was like, okay, I can for sure. Season 3 is a must. Season 4 is just, hey, let's push it one more. Let's try to squeeze in at least one more, right? But how many more is the question? Are we gonna try and do this, for 10 seasons? I mean, can we actually, get good stories, for that long? Or, do we get season 4 kind of like Breaking Bad, right? Try to end it, in a good spot, and then maybe sprinkle some Mandalorian here and there on our other properties. If Ezra comes back with his own show, or Ahsoka, etc. So I don't know. I mean, but I mean, definitely it's the flagship of Star Wars properties right now. That's there's no way around it. I just hope, and I really do hope that, like I said, they don't try to stretch it out, for 10 seasons, and then we end up, not even remembering how good it was at one point, right?
I mean, if they're gonna do who's gonna rule the Mandalore throne, this really feels like Chronicles or Riddick. Like I don't know. I don't know if you've seen that, but that kind of, we got a planet that doesn't exist anymore and a race that is dwindled down. Like they got to be careful. They're gonna have to be very careful how they do that, because Chronicles of Riddick wasn't a very good movie. So
yeah,
Katie
Katie
Sackhoff
Sackhoff
was in that too.
That's right. You're right. You're right.
So yeah, when is Ahsoka supposed to come out? Do we have a date?
After the Mandalorian season 3, which will be sometime around like April.
So it's still 2023, right? Like it's gonna come out next year.
Yeah, Bad Batch season 2, Mando season 3, Ahsoka. Yeah,
I feel like Ahsoka is gonna be really, really big for multiple generations of Star Wars fans.
Right.
Like Ahsoka was big on Rebel. Obviously, it's gonna be really. We know Sabine Wren's gonna be in Ahsoka, so it's gonna be Rebels. Lore heavy. So that's a whole generation that was what 5 to 10 when that was coming out, and that's now like 17 to 22. That some of them are actually using more than just their mom and dad's password on Disney Plus. Like I think that's gonna be a big show for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it's Filoni's baby, right? I mean, it's his creation basically. So of course he's gonna go all in, on it. It'd be interesting to see if we see Sabine Wren pop in Mando season 3 first.
Lucy.
I would actually like that, because I think it kind of does make sense. I mean, she is basically, probably her mother has passed, so she's she could be the new leader of Clan Wren, or whatever is left of the clan. But
okay, real quick, I mean, I'm not big on things they say in the background, but does Mandalore not exist anymore?
So Mandalore, the planet itself, even by the time of like the Clone Wars, was already in pretty bad shape, because they've been fighting for like centuries, right? So,
so I know,
it's
like on Rebels, it's already barren because they were using that weird weapon that was like disintegrating the armor and stuff.
Yeah, which Sabine created, by the way.
Yeah.
So the planet was already doing bad like for years. And then it seems that, whatever few cities they had left when the Empire came in, they just wiped those out, right? So that was like the last thing left for them. They inhabited the moons also. So I don't know what happened with those. I mean, if those were probably also wiped out, I'm assuming, or maybe made into prisons. I don't know, but they made it seem like they basically it's uninhabitable anymore, right? Which again,
it seemed like it doesn't exist anymore. Like it was Death Star or something.
I don't think so. Just because on the previews we saw during the trailer for season 3, we see the cracked up dome and the ruins of the dome city. So now that could be a flashback, right? We don't know, but I'm assuming it's present day Mandalore.
My thing is,
So-
if the Mandalorians are in hiding, why are they in hiding on different planets?
Well, that's the thing, right? Because it seems, and I'm sure season 3 is going to deal with that.
Okay.
The last time we left, most Mandalorians were actually uniting, right? That's when Sabine Wren helped Bo-Katan, right, with the Darksaber, all of that stuff, and they brought in most of the clans, not 100% of the clans, because some of them were still loyal to the Empire, but most of them. And then we don't know what happened, right? And then Mandalorian comes out and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got our asses handed to us, and now we had to scatter, right? And nobody's playing nice with each other anymore, like between the clans." So yeah, I think for sure that's gonna be covered in season 3. I think even Bo-Katan says it, right? Like, where were you when we needed you? Like the like the Dead Watch type of thing. Like, where were you when Mandalore fell? Like all that kind of stuff. Like you basically betrayed us.
When the
So
Fire Nation attacked, yeah.
exactly, yeah. Like when we needed him the most, the Avatar was not here.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's going to be interesting. That's why I think Sabine Wren makes sense to pop in, because she's obviously Mandalorian, and her house was very like dedicated to the people, right? Like the clan was actually trying to help them out. But again, where do we go from there, right? I mean, because honestly, in season 3, Mando seems to be taking maybe a little bit of a backseat, to the events that I'm assuming are going to happen. It's just that he so happens to have the Darksaber, so that that's gonna pull him in. But I think a lot of the story.
It makes sense to have Sabine because, as far as we know, she's the last one to actually win the Darksaber. Like, we know she gave it away to Bo-Katan.
Right.
So technically, if it has a master, like it's Harry Potter's wand or something, it's still Sabine Wren's.
Yeah, the elder one.
Not the elder one.
And so yeah. Again, I'm really hoping. I'm really hoping they're not trying to milk this show for every single drop and then some, right? I hope that one of these new properties, such as Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew, the Acolyte, the upcoming Ezra Bridger show, whatever that that's actually a good title, upcoming Ezra Bridger. Whatever those are, hopefully can sort of pick up the slack in once Mando is done, right? Or that they at least see the potential to pick it up, so that they let Mando rest, when it needs to, when it makes sense, as opposed to just dragging it on and on. Game of Thrones style, right? I mean, we used to love that show, and then we got those 2 last seasons, and then everybody sort of just was done by the end, right? Nah, never mind.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to happen to Mando, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, look, winter finally came.
Yeah, exactly. Yay. Oh, they're all dead. Dang it.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten a Grogu preschool show yet.
Yeah.
Like full-on weekly preschool show on Disney Junior, whatever.
Have you not watched Abbott Elementary?
No, I have not watched Abbott Elementary.
No, he's not on that. We're not sponsored by ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do not affiliate with Walt Disney World Company.
This is the closest thing right here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Ooh, woo.
So yeah, that's everything I got, guys. Anyone else have anything Star Warsy to speak about?
No, I bought a new Black Series.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
let us see.
I was at Target. It was this one. It is the Mandalorian season 2, and this is the version of him when he's being chased by the New Republic.
Yeah,
and they land on that ice planet. Comes with him, and he's got like ice like painted all over him, and it comes with one of these cool fellas.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the opposable arms. All of the arms are opposable and removable. If I wanted to like pop them off, I don't know. And then it comes with like a wee little baby Grogu eating an egg
with the little face hugger egg. Yeah. I love that.
Did you get the Shore Trooper Kenobi, the Andor one, or
no? I actually
they didn't have that.
I saw it. When did I see it? Yesterday.
Okay.
and I had it, and I was like, I already got like 3 or 4 different versions of of it.
I like
So I
the
was
tint
like,
of the paint of that.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The colors popped a lot more on this one.
Yeah.
So I was very tempted, man, but no, I didn't. I was like, nah, I can't have another one.
Yeah, I sent you the picture of that once I saw that. I was like, dude,
Yeah,
I almost grabbed it because it looked good.
it looked good. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, especially on the packaging with the I guess it's sort of like the red orange,
The
color
red,
for
the red
Andor.
looks
Yeah,
good on that
yeah,
box.
yeah,
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I liked it.
I haven't seen the skeleton yet. It's starting to make me angry. So it's the last Star Wars one I really want right now.
Which one?
The skeleton Halloween one. You got it, didn't you? You got it. Of course you got it.
This one?
That's
Yes,
cool.
sir. Yeah.
I just picked it up right now.
Ah, that's the one.
Yeah, I just picked it up. It's
Wow.
out here on
It's
on
on
my Target
Southwest
if you
one.
need. Yeah, if you need there, and they had a bunch. I didn't know you were looking for it. I would pick you one.
Nah, that's cool. I'll go look. I'll probably look tomorrow.
So yeah, this I like this figure. I like the little, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's got like the little wallpaper of like like a little skull and the bat and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like
Like
textured
behind
a
it.
little bit.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's really
yeah.
it's really nice. It's just, I mean, windowless, right? That's
Yeah.
that is what it comes with. The little
You have
like
to take it out of the box to
fork.
display it.
Yeah, exactly. Which I will. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
I'm not really a box fanatic, when it comes to stuff. Like, I mean, I keep my Black Series boxes. Most of them I keep.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't have a problem with taking them out of the box, obviously.
yeah. So I used to be mainly a inbox. But now with these things, man, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I mean, once you see this, you don't even know what's in there, right? I mean, technically. So I'm like, I'm just gonna take them out. And then this one specifically, somebody said that some parts actually react to black light. It's not glow in the dark, but that some pieces, like the legs and the arms, actually glow under black light. So I want to try that out. So I'm definitely, opening up this one.
Yeah. That
Interesting.
sounds cool.
Haven't heard that before. So, the Legacy of Nerd, Daniel, thank you very much for joining us for the very first time on the Star Wars Stuff podcast. And tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me everywhere. I'm mainly on YouTube, but I'm also on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook as well. Twitter, I'm there, but mainly the main places are YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok and Facebook. So you can find me there. We just did me and General Kenobi just did some streams. I did some giveaways for hitting 500. He has a big one coming up as well. I'll probably have one coming up shortly because I hit 600 while I was hitting 500. So I'll probably do another one there as well.
Humble brag.
For the people that haven't heard of me before, I'm a toy hunter, toy reviewer. I do some stop motion stuff with my Megazords. I am primarily a Power Rangers person, but I watch everything, and I'm in almost every single fandom except for anime. So when you asked me about that today, I was like, "What is that?"
You're like,
So, anime is basically the only thing I don't do. I basically just Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid. But yeah, if you want to check me out on YouTube, that'd be awesome. I do a lot of different things. Right now, I'm doing a little bit. I'm trying to get back into the stop motion a little bit because I'm kind of bored with toy hunting right now. So I'm trying to do some other stuff.
Cool. General Kenobi, where can the people find you?
Sure. So main YouTube channel called General Kenobi's Bunker. We do, we talk about Star Wars, obviously, but we also do toy hunting, such as finding stuff like this. We do toy reviews, we do show reviews as well, and we also go live every Wednesday on The High Ground around 8 p.m. Central. So we'd love it if you guys join. Instagram, same thing, General Kenobi's Bunker. TikTok as well. If you guys can check me out there. I just reformatted or got back into Twitter. I had lost my password. Not proud of it. And so I'm barely getting back into Twitter. Same thing, General Kenobi's Bunker. And as Daniel mentioned, I have a giveaway coming up this week on Wednesday for the channel hit 500 subscribers. So in celebration of that, we're going to be doing a giveaway live.
Cool. Congratulations.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
win
Matt.
it, by the way. I didn't buy it again because I'm gonna win it. So you know.
Oh, look at the confidence right there.
So, Matt.
Yeah.
Other than at MRB_53, where can people find you?
Pretty much just Star Wars Stuff Podcast. That's what I'm doing. I mean, if you can't find me at Mr. B_53, then I don't want to be found. I guess that's the only place you can find me at.
Yeah, and of course, you can always find us on our Patreon for exclusive content at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. Instagram, like Matt said, and pretty much everywhere, just like everyone else. Twitter.
Got some giveaways coming up on our Instagram, so if you're not following that already, get on it.
Yep, for sure. And for Matt, General Kenobi, the Legacy of Nerd, Daniel. My name is David. May the Force be with you.
Always. Pew, 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 pew. I love you. Do all this stuff. And